We continue to take a look at the candidates, and today probably a good day to take a look at least one candidate, as weather may be preventing some campaigns from getting out there and doing as much block walking as they would like to do. And joining me in studio to talk about his campaign for mayor, Dan Pope. Welcome back.
Great to be here, Chad. Good morning.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back in studio. We had you in when you first announced that you were going to be running. The field has gotten a little more crowded since you announced that you're running for mayor. We were talking before we went on the air that, at least in your opinion, the race has started to pick up a little bit, that those who are looking at this, it's starting to pique some interest out there, right?
Sure, we're starting to get a little mind share, which is it's good. There's been a lot going on, and remains a lot going on in the political realm, whether it's national or more of a regional or in this case city. So it's exciting. There's a lot to do, and we're enjoying it very, very much.
With a race for mayor, a lot of folks always talk about leadership when they're running for mayor. That they say, "I'm a strong leader." You want a strong leader as mayor. What do you think you bring to the table as far as leadership that separates you from everyone else who's running?
Well, I would differentiate myself from the guys that are running in that I have leadership experience at a bunch of different levels. In the private sector, 20 years as a small business owner, building a business, growing a business, learning the lessons that you learn doing that. I've worked in the public, arena as a volunteer, as a school board member for the last 9 years, and so I in the last 2 as the board president. And you learn leadership there because you're working in a bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. It's a different animal. It doesn't move as quickly. I have similar kind of experiences in nonprofits, whether it be Boy Scouts, United Way, or church, and active in the church. So I think. My skill, what makes me different is I think I'm an able communicator. I think I can build a team. I think consensus builders, I think, overused. I mean, and I'm not sure that's how I want to describe myself, but I think I can get people going in the same direction. Chad, I'm not. Good leadership requires the ability to the courage to make tough decisions. I can do that. I think it requires the ability to say no. I think we need a dose of no at City Hall. So those are the things I would say.
We're visiting with Dan Pope, who's running for mayor here in Lubbock. What do you think are maybe the top 3 issues facing the city of Lubbock that will come upon the city council if you're elected mayor? What are the top 3 issues right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So number one, I think, is and I'm going to combine a couple into number one, but we've got to hire a new city manager. That's going to be the first thing on the plate for the next council. And with that new CEO, city manager, we need to start to make City Hall more responsive, more accountable, more transparent. I mean, City Hall exists to serve citizens, and we've got a lot of great people at City Hall, but we need to coalesce that effort and decide what's important and do what's important. Mm-hmm. I think that's number one. I think number 2 is sort of the budget piece. That'll be the second thing you're going to deal with, and with that we can get into this debt discussion, Chad. But we make the fundamental decisions inside the budget that really impact not only that 1 year's operating budget, but sort of the long-term debt. We've got to quit using debt to fund what costs that should be operating costs. Things like street maintenance. Mm-hmm. We need to quit financing vehicles. I mean, if we can't afford to pay cash for the vehicles, remember, we're going to keep those for a long time. The city maintains its own vehicles. We're going to keep them 10, 12, 15 years. We don't need to be paying any interest. I don't care how low the interest rates are right now. That's not good financial management. So I think that's the second piece. I guess third would be LP&L, water. I mean, I'm a fan of the city not doing a lot of things. Let's not get government in so many things. Let's do the basic things really well.
Right.
And water's in pretty good shape. LP&L, we need to sort of get this deal with ERCOT done. That's the direction we're going. It seems to be a pretty good decision. It allows us reliable, a long-term, reliable, affordable alternative for electricity. There's work to be done there. There's a lot of education to be done with our citizens about that one. But I would say those are the top three.
We're visiting with Dan Pope. He brought up the budget and debt, and this
Sure.
is something that every candidate who comes through here talks about. We need to get a hold of the city debt. We need to get a hold of the budget. And then in a couple of years, we'll have more candidates who come through. We got to get a hold of the city budget. It seems like when you have elected officials who come through and maybe they campaign on that, they talk about it a lot, it's still an issue for years, in the future. So we keep hearing about it. How do we actually get a handle on the debt?
Well, right now, the council, that hand is dealt to the council. That debt's been issued. So
yeah.
You're disciplined about paying it down. You want to make sure you make the right decisions when there's an opportunity to refinance or what they call refunding in the bond market. It's you look for those kind of opportunities to drive down your costs. But we've got some good things going our way when it comes to that debt. A third of that debt's related to water. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we would all argue that it's an investment that we had to make. But most of that debt is 20-year debt. Some of that debt starts rolling off very close to the end of this decade, 20 and 21. So our debt picture is going to get a lot better. We just need to be disciplined to keep it down. So what we don't want to do is have debt come off. In other words, the loan's paid off and you add just as much on the top. We've got to have the discipline to drive the debt down. And so we started the year with $1.18 billion in debt. The council will pay, or the city will pay off about $92 million worth of debt this year. So that the goal is not to add $92 million on. It's to say no, to make the right decision so the debt goes down. There are going to be some big drops in the debt as with some of the things we pay off, but it's that discipline. It's that every day doing the right things to make sure that we don't just swipe the credit card.
Right.
There's no silver bullet, Chad. It's disciplined, living within our budget.
Let me ask you this, because you talk about debt rolling off, and we don't want to put too much debt on. You were on Robert Pratt's show this week, and this was a big topic on his show. And I want you to kind of get into it a little bit more and into a little bit more detail if you can.
Sure.
For those who are maybe, they heard that interview and they go, okay, well, you're talking about when we need to be disciplined, when we don't need to have any more debt piled on. At Lubbock ISD, it was voter approved, the bond, but that is debt added on to debt that was rolling off. So if they hear you now saying we need to not do that same practice at City Hall, I guess how do they marry the two?
Yeah, so it's a great question. First of all, they're completely different animals. At the school district, you can't raise the tax rate without a vote of the citizens.
Right.
That's different at City Hall. Yeah. They can, and they've done that the last 2 years as an example. So at the school district, the debt, the interest, the I&S fund, there's two funds, and the bond money that the voters have approved in 89, 94, 99, 2004, and 2010, or roughly that, over the last nearly 30 years. Those are for projects that you lay out and you explain what you're going to do and what it's going to cost, and then you put it up a thumbs up, thumbs down to the voters. Mm-hmm. We did that most recently in 2010. That was a $199 million package. The discussion with Robert earlier this week was he was talking about a pay-as-you-go kind of model, and when we issued that debt in 2010, when we passed that bond in 2010, we had a $110 to $120 million worth of debt at LISD. Robert was saying we were within a year or year and a half of paying it off. I'm not sure exactly what he was talking about, but in fact, we had just issued debt in 07 or 08 from the 04 bond. I mean, when you pass a bond, it doesn't make sense to issue the debt until you start the projects. You don't want to start paying interest on something until you are ready to do the work. You don't need the money until you're ready to do the work.
Right.
So we went to the voters and that was approved. And so let's talk about the city as we get to that. The city's $1.2 billion in debt. Only 20 cents of it is covered by the property tax. And even less than that of that debt was approved by the voters. One of the things we've got to do at City Hall is for projects like the fire station, the police station, a new city hall, park work, those type things. The voters need to vote on that. I mean, Chad, issuing COs for that, that's not good business. There is a use for certificates of obligation, and the state code on that is pretty broad, and our interpretation's been even broader, in my opinion. But there is a big difference. I'm glad I got a chance to talk about it today. I'm glad I got a chance to talk about it with Robert. When you run a big organization, public or private, there is a use for debt. When you make investments, when the useful life of something is going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, there's an appropriate financing period for that. School buildings, for instance, we're using 20 or 30-year debt. Well, we're going to keep our schools. We're keeping our schools a minimum of 50 years. We're building them more to a 100-year standard. That's what the standard we're held to we're suggested at a state level, and it's what we try to do. Mm-hmm. So it is about making the right investments. But I'll give you an example at LISD, some things that we're doing there was a time when we bought school buses with bond money. Well, we may keep them a long time, but that doesn't make sense. We quit doing that. We're paying cash for school buses. We're working real hard, and this is probably, Robert and I probably could agree on this. We never really got around to discussing it, but we're working real hard to fund technology out of the operating budget. Mm-hmm. Technology gets less expensive, and the technology life cycle gets shorter. In other words, we're not keeping as long, and sort of this planned obsolescence that goes along with some of that, but or the innovation, the disruptive technology that we see, but. We're working real hard on funding more of that out of the operating budget. In fact, I think before LSD goes back to another bond, one of the things they'll accomplish is a large portion of technology, which is so much of what we're doing in the classroom today. You understand that. You're the son of an educator. You get that. So much of that technology is what is education today. Well, I think the vast majority of that we'll be able to fund through operating budget. Now, there may be some structural wide area network kind of, things that'll last a long time that you might put in a bond. But you got to make good decisions about that. And you have to be informed, and you got to ask hard questions. And that's your role as an elected official, is to dig into that and make sure that the policy decisions you're making are correct, because you're spending other people's money.
Dan Pope, candidate for mayor. We'll take the break. When we come back, we've got more to get into, including downtown and other areas maybe of the city of Lubbock that may need to be looked at by the city council. We'll be right back. Back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Dan Pope in studio. He's running for mayor of Lubbock, and one of the big issues here in the city is downtown redevelopment. And Dan, when you look at downtown Lubbock, obviously there's been a lot of focus on downtown. There's been I know questions brought up about what the future of downtown is going to look like. How much involvement the city council should have. Tell us your vision for downtown. Maybe how much involvement you've already had in downtown.
So. That's a great question. First and foremost, we've owned, my wife and I have owned a property down there, a building down there. Our business was in it. We've owned it since 1996. We've improved upon it. We've added on to it. I'm a stakeholder downtown. I want to get that on the table. Vibrant, successful, happening kind of communities have good downtowns. They have downtowns that are attractive to people. I think it's something that we need to work towards. But it's got to be driven by the private sector. Okay, it's got to be the West Table. It's got to be Primitive Social. It's got to be Rager Dykes. It's got to be Brady and Hamilton or Alderson Enterprises. Those are people that are investing down there today, and we're slowly getting there. It's not like a clear field development where you can come up quickly. Redevelopment of downtown takes a long time. People talk about Oklahoma City. That's a 35-year project. Yeah. So I support it. It's got to be with private dollars. Now, what's the city's role? Well, a good example of the city's role is how they helped out Buddy Holly Hall out. They provided the land. We worked on that 10 or 12 years ago. I was involved early on in some discussions with Senator Duncan at the time and the DPS and the city, and there was a trade done for the DPS and the city. The city is donated the land for Buddy Holly Hall. That's their stake in this deal. That's what their stake should be. That's all their stake should be. City dollars. There's a lot of people that feel I'm running for mayor to get into the mayor's office to fund Buddy Holly Hall with public dollars, tax dollars. That is not the case. Buddy Holly Hall is a private effort. It started as a private effort. It's going to end as a private effort. When we cut that ribbon someday, we'll be very happy and very proud of it, and it'll be catalytic to downtown. But it's got to be done by the private sector.
The video, the plans look great. I've been seeing that float around on Facebook, and the video looks great. Yeah. Let's talk about other areas of Lubbock.
Sure.
Obviously, 34th Street, it's coming along very nicely.
Yeah.
Are there other areas of Lubbock that, if elected as mayor, that you're concerned about falling to the wayside?
Well, not specifically, okay? I think there is a great balance that's got to be struck between growth, which I'm supportive of growth. Mm-hmm. That makes me a little different than some of the people I'm running against, but I am a pro-growth candidate. However, you've got to grow, and at the same time, you've got to maintain what you have. And so there's certainly logical things that we need to do. I mean, the airport is a good example. I mean, the airport we have a fabulous little airport from the standpoint of in and out, the ability to get in and out. This air service we have here, it's not what it once was, but it's still great, and it's something that we should be very proud of. Does it need to be updated? Sure. It probably needs to be updated some. That might be one of those examples, but that's not something that I'm running on. To me, it's grow smartly, but take care of what you have at the same time.
Well, you brought up, and we only have about a minute or so left, but you brought up that growth and being pro-growth. That separates you from some of your other opponents. How so?
Well, there's one of my opponents wants to make it very difficult to annex, more difficult to do annexation, as an example. One of my opponents has a record of voting against annexation. Okay. We need to grow. I mean, that's important. That keeps our taxes low. The consequence of not growing is either cutting services or increasing taxes, and none of us want that.
Let's see, about 40 seconds or so left, and this is a difficult topic to get into in 40 seconds, but current annexation that's been before the city council, how have you read that whole issue?
You know, it's an interesting one. I think, unfortunately, we're making a very important decision during the political season right now.
Yeah.
I would like there needs to be a strategy for annexation for the city. There's a group that worked of citizens with city staff and elected officials work to make a plan. I'd like to see us implement that plan. I think it makes good sense.
All right, Dan Pope, thanks for stopping by today.
It's great to be here. Look forward to coming back.
Absolutely.